Now I see the midday slime making label. That's weird. That's kind of weird. Now I can see the slime thing. Why does it say that? I'm confused. I literally just, you know how when you're about to go live at the top, there's a little bar where you can put like all the info or whatever, and it says book club late, oops. And then I pressed go live, and then it showed me the midday slime making thing, even though I had clearly just seen the other one. What the heck? That's very strange. Are we lagging though, or are we okay? As long as we're not lagging, it doesn't really matter in the end. No lagging. Okay, great. Great. Let me just finish this last little piece since I'm already eating it. And then we will read. I made Zoe really mad last night, you guys. I really upset this child. It's bath time. And bath is really important to Zoe because bath time is where Zoe does her color experiments. Which is great. We love a kid with a sharp mind, right? So a long time ago, I bought Zoe some colorful bath stuff and she fell in love with it. But it was too expensive to maintain those like colorful bath powder packets because they're like $1 a piece and that's like a ton. So I found a thing for Catherine that are these little tabs that change the color of the bathwater, but they're tiny and you can get like 300 of them for $20. Way more reasonable for a 2-year-old, right? Zoe loves these little tabs. Very happy little girl about these little tabs. And she started putting them in the water. Well, Catherine quickly figured out that she was putting all the colors in the water at once, so then she would have what? Yeah, a brown bath. Not cute, right? So instead, Catherine bought her these little like fake plastic beaker things. And now Zoe likes to put a different color in each of the little beakers and she fills them up under the rainwater, the faucet, and then she assigns an animal to each color each time. Fine, no problem, right? So because my sister wanted to make sure that Zoe's routine was kept intact and that she did not feel put out while her parents were away for the night, Catherine put the little tabs in each of the little beakers for Zoe and left them in the bathroom for me so that I wouldn't have to do any figuring out. And all I would have to do was get Zoe in the bathtub. You know what, Soul Not Found? I'm working on a UK recommendation. I'm working on it, I promise. And so she put those in and everything is great, right? I tell Zoe it's bath time. She grumbles a little, but we get in the bath and, well, we don't get in the bath. I sit on the toilet and Zoe gets in the bath and I turn on the water and she dumps her little animals into the bath. She's got these tiny little sea creature animals that she's obsessed with. Fine, okay, everything is great, no problem. Fills up her little beakers. And as she fills up each beaker, she names the color, she assigns it an animal, everything is great, right? Or so we think. Aunt Sasha picks up one of the beakers. And I said, wow, cool, what's this? And she said, it's blue. I said, obviously, what was I thinking? I don't know. And, oh my gosh, where was the last place you had your charger, Laura? And I put the beaker back down, but I put it in the wrong order. not only did I put it in the wrong order, I got jokes and I thought I was being funny. I thought that I was being funny. And as I put the little beaker back down on the side of the bathtub, I pretended that I was going to dump the little beaker into the bath to make the bath blue. No, we are not. In case any of you wanted to know, the blue does not go there and it does not belong in the bath. Whoa, real mad. Like, I don't know what I was thinking. I wasn't thinking properly, because just don't do that. I'm just going to tell you, don't do that, okay? So we're going to read now, but don't mess up the science experiment with a tiny scientist. Just saying. Yeah, I didn't use my brain. Science is really specific. And if you mess up the experiment, the outcome is obviously ruined and you can't, No. She has a little scientist doll, super cute. That is super cute. Yeah, Zoe's big on her little experiments. I actually have, oh my gosh, wait, before we start, I have to tell you guys this. I can't post it, obviously, because we don't post her face, but if there was ever something that you could post about Zoe, I would want it to be this. She took her mom's phone the other day and she filmed a little nature documentary for us. It's so cute. You can only see like from here up on her face because clearly she does not know how to film on the phone. She like doesn't know where the camera is. She thinks like the whole thing is the camera. It's not, obviously. Like we know the camera is just like right here, but like she doesn't know that. So she's holding the camera like this and she says something kind of unintelligible, and then she grabs one of her little sea creatures and she says, "Is whale, hi whale," and shows the whale to the camera. And then she grabs another one. "Is shark, hi shark." "Is seal, hi seal." It's so funny, but she like wants to show each of the little animals and name them, and then she makes them wave at the camera. "Hi seahorse," and you're like, it's so cute. It's so funny. But she like tells you what each one is, and you're like, yeah, no, I know. Oh God, she's so funny. She's got a great little personality. Hi whale, hi shark. Hi shark. Okay, let's get to reading. Chapter 24. Ellie introduces me to people, including this is my mom. Yeah, she is a blast to hang out with. Look, this is my mommy. And they're like, I mean, on the plus side, at least no one will ever think you stole her because she's like, this one's my mom, came out of her. And you're like, it's true, I am her mom. Look, this is my mommy. Yeah, I know, we've met. Yeah. Oh, that's pretty funny. That's real cute. Okay. Piper's hometown looked pretty much the way I'd left it. Cold, damp, cheery, and a tad drunk on ale. "Jericho, my friend," a blacksmith by the name of Olger said to me, smiling broadly and clapping me on the shoulder. "I didn't expect to see you back so soon." Olger was the one who made me the cool double-bladed battle axe and was a great guy. "I forgot a friend of mine who happened to be kidnapped by your enemies, Olg, nothing more." Nodding knowingly, like kidnapped friends were absolutely the norm on Svalbard, Olog said with a friendly hand on my shoulder, "I had a friend kidnapped by the southern tribes once." "Really? What happened?" Shrugging, the blacksmith said, "Never saw him again. Heard he was filleted from neck to belly and mounted on stakes." Piper must have seen the look on my face at the mention of flaying and steaks because she cut our village visit down to a few minutes. Bulwark the Mighty wasn't too keen on Piper escorting me behind enemy lines because he and I were old chums who used to sit by each other on Thursday nights in the war council. He let us go. Actually, I might have thought I was losing him and decided to throw in that we also looked around for any sign of his older brother while we were around the enemy camps, which was probably the only real reason he said yes. He also insisted, since I had somehow lost my weapons and had left not an hour ago when I left, that I take his weapons. No thanks, Bulwark, I told him. I don't plan on coming back afterwards, and I'd hate for Piper to have to tote all your stuff back. This is just a pit stop. After I'd acquired a two-handed greatsword slung on my back with a bow and a quiver, I was ready to go. Piper was what the Vikings called a shield maiden, which meant that she used one-handed weapon and a shield. I'd already found out that she could use any weapon she felt like using, but just preferred to use the sword and shield. In exactly 2 minutes, we were standing next to our mounts, fully equipped for our journey. Since I was trying to hurry, I didn't take the time to garb myself from head to toe in Viking clothes, which I hated not to do because they were so comfortable. I did lose my Nazi long coat, though, exchanging it for a small form-fitting sleeved coat of mail and a few wolf skins around it. Also, this isn't all for all ears. Finding a coat of mail small enough to fit me was almost impossible, so I ended up borrowing it from Piper. What? It's flipping chain, whoever you are, which is completely unisex, and it went great with my black Chuck Taylors. What can I say? Black goes great with pretty much everything. I stepped into the saddle of my black and white warhorse and checked my glove. 4 hours and 15 minutes left. You ready, dear? I asked Piper as she climbed under her saddle. I was going to ask you that, she told me, causing me to frown because Chloe had said the exact same thing to me once. My reply was a heel to my horse. Later, guys, I called over my shoulder. I'll be back one day. You guys rock. So with that, 2 of us, aided by the cheers of our Viking comrades at our backs, left the village and went in search for helpless Russian girl from 2340. We hit the snow-covered ground hard, turning our mounts west and kicking them into high gear. They just don't make horses like they used to, is all I'm going to say. Your average 2012 steed wouldn't have made it 30 minutes at our pushing pace, let alone the 2.5 hours the Viking mounts accomplished. We stopped by an icy creek, dismounting and leading the lathered beasts to it and letting them get a good drink. How much further? I asked, checking my gauntlet, because my legs are killing me. Another hour to the first camp, Piper said, patting the neck of her tired horse. The next one is an hour or so from that, but the good thing is we'll know whether or not your friend is at either of them from the distance of our time, right? I didn't like the sound of that at all. Well, let's get moving, I said, pulling the reins of my horse in mid-drink. They need more time, Jericho. Well, what do you know? So do I. Piper stepped in front of me, putting her hands on my chest, yet softly with some firmness. If you kill or lame the horses, you will surely not have the time that you so desperately need. We stood there for what seemed like a long time with our eyes locked while my poor horse was pulling at his reins, trying to get at the water again. Not knowing what came over me, I let go of the reins. Come here, was all I said, pulling her into a hug. She didn't resist at all and wrapped her arms around my waist, placing the side of her head on my mailed chest. It wasn't the most amorous of hugs, but it was sincere. You're doing a lot for me here, I said, and I felt her melt into me. I don't even know who she is, she finally said. She's a Russian girl from the year 2340 with some anger issues, I said. Her father made the Gauntlet, and he's in danger right now, and we're the only people who can help him. Keeping Chloe alive is one of the top priorities at the moment. Piper pulled away a little and looked at me in the face again, placing a cold hand on my cheek. How is this any of your responsibility? How can anyone from any time other than your own be any reason to risk your life, even me? What am I to you? The question was a hard one. You're my friend, I told her. So are the rest of your brother, and so is Chloe. Wow, did I really just friend zone a gorgeous Viking warrior woman? Just a friend? Piper asked, one side of her mouth lifting into a smile while her index finger did something to my sideburn that felt great and made me want to close my eyes and go to sleep. I reached up and covered her hand with mine. It's all I got right now, Piper, but I do have to say I do so love this little island of yours. Thanks. Made it myself, she said, smiling. Shut up, I told her, shoving her away and laughing. Look at us laughing in the face of danger like a couple of champs. It was really crazy. More so after we waited and I had 2 hours left on my clock before mounting up again on our halfway refreshened horses. We rode in silence for what seemed like 53 minutes because, well, that's exactly how long we've been riding in silence before Piper, who was in the lead, held up a hand and we stopped in a much smaller outcrop of trees. "How much longer do you have?" she asked, dismounting. "Hour and 7 minutes, I told her, dropping off my horse to the ankle-deep snow, instantly hating my choice of not changing out of my shoes for Viking ones. "Not too bad," Piper stated, pulling off her bow. "Better make it count, though." We tied the horses to a few small trees and exited the outcropping. In less than a minute, we could see the first enemy village better. Piper crouched down at the top of a hill that overlooked a rather small and surprisingly quiet village. "She's not here." "How do you know?" I asked, squatting beside her. "It's a gift. She's not here," she said, simply standing. "We need to hurry. If Chloe's captors didn't stop here, then we might not catch her before she makes it to the other village." After we made it back and exited the small section of trees on our horses, I asked, "What do you mean it's a gift?" Reaching a hand to her neck, Piper pulled down her snow fox pelt, exposing her right collarbone and the horrific burn on it. The southern warbands have a way of welcoming women captives into their camp. My mouth was hanging open for a while before I regained enough composure to ask, "When did it happen?" "When I was 12. A lot of us were taken during the border war back then," she said casually, like she was talking about how deep the snow got this time of year. "Since I was so young, they put me to work in their meat huts and tending to the sheep. Some of the older women weren't so lucky. They had very ceremonial and very loud. She's not here." I was starting to catch on to what she was saying, and I was also starting to feel sick. But could this day get any worse? And then my horse tripped in a hole and broke its right leg. So, yeah, I suppose this day could and did get worse. Since I was so high off the ground on the mountainous beast, I was somehow flung forward and ended up with a mouthful of snow instead of being crushed by my ride. "Are you hurt?" Piper asked urgently, stopping her horse beside me as I got to my knees and started trying to knock snow off. "Well, I'm not dead," I confirmed. By this time, my horse was making the most pathetic of noises that grated on my ears. Standing, I started for it, pulling the greatsword off my back. "Sorry, pal," I said, and I meant it. "I'll never forget you, homie." And then I finished the job. Well, you know how I said once that blood and sand mix a little too well? Well, blood and snow is way worse, mainly because it looks like a strawberry daiquiri snow cone. "Let's go," I said, accepting Piper's hand and climbing up behind her. In spite of all the unfortunate events that had taken place in the last few hours, I was still somehow able to say, while I adjusted in my seat and wrapped my arms around Piper's waist, "Man, you smell good." Laughing, Piper kicked our last hope, and we were off. And she did smell good, kind of like an earthy, warm, yet cool scent that a guy could get lost in. The wonderful smelling ride that lasted another half an hour or so. I must have really been lost in the scent or something, because I didn't look at my gauntlet until we stopped a little outside the village. 19 minutes left and counting. "Okay, so what's the plan here?" I asked her, and we both dismounted, starting for the seriously loud town. When I say loud, I mean like really loud. It sounded like the Super Bowl of Vikings. The Vikings will never get to the Super Bowl. See what I did there? "Let's get inside and find your friend. Don't forget to do it in less than 18 minutes also," I threw in. Close to the town, I produced Chloe's gauntlet, and she dropped and put it on my left hand. This had been the idea of mine since I first met Chloe in Rome and saw that she was sporting a left-handed glove. "Never done this before," I said. Piper frowned in confusion when I turned and aimed both gloves at nothing in particular, firing off 2 bolts of white-blue electricity that reached almost 50 yards. I smiled broadly and looked at my hands, the bright lights in the palms of both gauntlets fading slowly, and it made me feel like a lightning mage. Fan-flipping-tastic. A crude, sorry excuse for a town gate was standing wide open when we entered quietly, except I'm not sure why we were sneaking in due to the racket the town's occupants were making. "What are they doing?" I asked her nervously, following Piper through the streets. "Branding captives is kind of like their entertainment," Piper said. Then we made it to the town square with 14 minutes left. "Wait, is it making you nervous with me letting you know every time a minute or two has ticked by without even being close to saving Chloe?" "Well, good. Imagine how I felt right about then, whoever you are. The square was packed to overflowing with Vikings who were all cheering and looking towards the center, which is where I spotted Chloe. She seemed to be doing a lot better than you would have expected a captive to be doing. I mean, she was still wearing all her clothes, her lip wasn't bleeding, her eyes weren't blackened, and she seemed to have all of her body parts. She didn't look like she was having the most grand of times, though, if the horrified expression on her face was anything to go by. 2 armed guards stood on either side of Chloe, escorting her to the center of the screaming mob and onto what looked like gallows, which made me gasp, except it was missing the whole gallow part of the gallows that make them, gallowy. So it was basically a stage. Checking my right gauntlet, I saw that I had 12 minutes left. I had no plan. I mean, there was always the old snatch and grab maneuver, but with loads of screaming Vikings crammed into a town square to stop me, I was thinking that the odds of landing a trick like that were slim, except that none of the screaming Vikings had handfuls of lightning like yours truly. All right, Piper. Here's the deal. I started explaining my outrageous plan to save Chloe, who had been forced to her knees by the 2 guards. 11 minutes left. Screaming to try and get attention away from Chloe was impossible to do due to the abundance of screaming already going on. So I decided to jolt them another way. When I was 6, a couple of schoolmates of mine and I liked to play with the farmer's electric fence by one of us grabbing it and then making a chain of bodies so we'd all get a little bit of the juice. A version of that grade school fun happened when I shot my bolts of lightning into the crowd on the left, only it was about 50 bajillion times worse. If you're worried about the children, don't worry your pretty little head about that, whoever you are, because I got them too. I wasn't exactly able to pick my targets, and it wasn't really like I killed anyone. I just hurt them really, 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 really badly. The demented offspring of these violent warmongers wasn't exactly something I was worried about at the time. I made a mad dash through the disoriented yet yearning crowd towards the stage that Chloe was on. "Chloe!" I yelled at her, waving my arms like a madman. I wasn't really trying to cue her to anything. Honestly, I was just trying to let her know that Jericho Johnson was on the case and that everything was under control. But then someone grabbed me from behind and threw me down, commencing to plant several hard stomps to my back and shoulders. I think it was the 3rd time that my face smashed on the ground that my eyes caught sight of my glove. 10 minutes. Before whoever was tap dancing on me could finish his painful performance, I rolled over to my right and saw that my attacker happened to be the very woman who had taken Chloe captive. She didn't look too surprised, so I was thinking that she'd been expecting me. Since I wasn't feeling like Maximus the Merciful, I let 2 bolts go from both hands at the poor chick standing not 3 feet away, sending her flying through the air and landing in a shaking heap almost 15 feet away. I kicked back onto my feet, which was one of the first things Yvonne had taught me how to do, and then I looked around for Chloe in the crazy town square. People were running away and screaming like Odin himself had shown up in vengeful vehemence against them. I couldn't see her and started panicking. Where had she gone? She had been right on the stage and then poof, she vanished. I ran to the stage and up the stairs, scanning the crowd for any sight of Chloe. "Oh, come on," I said, and then I saw her being dragged away by 2 guards on the other side of the square. Well, they were dragging her until one of them caught an arrow in his back from Piper, who I had told to get on the nearest roof that she could and provide cover fire. She seemed to be doing a bang-up job of it, too. All Chloe needed was for one of the guards to let go of her, and she went to work. With her hands bound and her ankles shackled together, Chloe jumped into the air and planted both of her feet onto the remaining guard's chest, sending him sailing into a rock wall. I leapt from the stage and ran towards her, jolting anyone who got in my way as I traversed the maddening street. "Did you really think I'd let you out of our date that easily?" I asked Chloe, skidding to a stop beside her. Chloe was breathing hard when she shrugged. "A girl has to keep trying." "Well, stop," I said, cutting the ropes that held her hands like butter with the sharp point of the gauntlet fingers. "No chance of cutting through the shackles like that, huh?" Before she could answer, we saw several attackers rallying from both sides of us. "Please tell me you're not out of ideas," Chloe said, examining the opposition. "Not just yet," I said, grabbing her around the waist and firing off my grappling hook. Okay, I'm just going to stop here and explain the grappling hook mechanics so you don't get this whole Batman vibe from it. Here's the thing. Anchors come out of my palm from the glove at the same place that the bolts of electricity come from. After selecting from the drop-down menu, it looks like a mini version of the clog game, and it clamps on to anything it hits, and then it would let go without resistance once I got to it. It was also a tiny thing for something that's supposed to hold my weight while it zips me around on a wire that's so small it's almost not visible. Let me also point out to all you gamer, fanboy, comic book junkies, or anyone else with nerd-like tendencies that the grappling hooks you've read about, seen, or used in a game aren't very realistic. I mean, do you know how fast someone has to be pulled to maintain a diagonal line for almost 30 feet from the ground to roof? About a bone-shattering 150 miles per hour. So when I say I use the grappling hook, don't get this mental picture of me ziplining like a flipping comic book, because I didn't. My anchor sunk into the beam on the peak of the nearest roof, and Chloe and I ran towards the wall as it began pulling us quickly. It wasn't the easiest thing I've ever done, and quite frankly, I'm not even sure how we managed to kind of run up the wall to the top of the steep roof while we held onto each other. That was wholly miraculous. However, it was accomplished was irrelevant, considering that we escaped a lot of angry Vikings in the process. I checked my gauntlet. 6 minutes. What now? Chloe asked me. I saw Piper a few roofs away, and I waved to her. Returning the wave, she started her descent to the ground. Meet up with Piper and get the hell out of here is my plan. Unless you just want to stick around and see what happens when I'm gone in 5 minutes. An arrow hit the beam we were straddling, and we glanced at the street to see a handful of not-so-conservative Vikings had started sailing arrows at us. Chloe rolled onto the other side, grabbing the beam and lying down on the steep roof. I had other plans. Standing, I held my hands almost a foot apart, facing my palms, shot bolts at each other. I'm not sure what I'd been expecting, and I'd probably watched too much anime for my own good, but the results weren't too shabby if I do say so myself. When connected, the bolts formed together in a sort of ball. The only problem was, if you guys remember from the beginning of this tale, I could only hold a steady stream of this stuff for close to 30 seconds. So I'm guessing that combined into a potential ball of juice at the time was reduced drastically because I began to feel the warmth in my palms, and I could have sworn I saw smoke. And then I tossed a black ball into the Viking court. Again, I don't know what I expected from what was supposed to be my Hadouken level deal-breaking finishing move. I mean, what if it had hit the ground and did what most of electricity does when it hits ground and fizzled out, or something else lame like that? These were my thoughts as the lightning of the size of a small beach ball landed amongst the attacking Vikings. My next thought was that I had hoped that there weren't any kids down there, because this time I did feel bad. Chloe wasn't touched at all by the ramifications of the bolt bomb, unlike me, who, after the explosion, was blown off my feet, landing on my back on the steep roof. I would have slid off had Chloe not grabbed my ankles. 4 minutes, woman! I shouted back at her through all of the noise of sheer pandemonium and loud crackles of electricity. Let's move! It took too long to get outside the crazy town. 2 minutes. Never flipping again, I said loudly, limping quickly after Chloe and Piper. My ears were ringing and one was bleeding, and I couldn't feel my back for some reason. And I'm guessing I wasn't paralyzed because I was, running. But it still wasn't the best feeling. Then I ran into Piper because she stopped suddenly. What about Bjorn? She asked, glancing back at the village we just exited, which now had large pillars of smoke billowing from it into the sky. I was about to tell her that he was out of luck. You're not going to believe this because I was there and I still couldn't believe it. But Bjorn the Berserker, speaking of the devil, ran out of the town gates, his hands bound, clutching a bloodied broadsword and his ankle shackles broken. There he is, I said, my head still ringing. 90 seconds. Jericho, Bjorn said, smiling broadly for a guy who'd been prisoner almost 2 weeks. Back so soon? I forgot a friend of mine, I said. Like Olger had done, Bjorn nodded knowingly, like what I just said was a very normal thing. Well, thanks for the diversion. It was enough for me to make an escape. I sliced his bonds and saw that I had 1 minute left. No worries, friend. Try not to let the bards destroy my faithful deeds in the wild verse, Bjorn, I said, smiling at him and extending a hand. Shaking my gauntlet-clad hand, he placed a hand on my shoulder and assured me that while he still drew breath, he would not stand for any wild songs written by any bards. 30 seconds. There's a horse in the outcrop for you and Piper to make it back home with, I said, taking a step back. Come on, Chloe. We still have to save the stupid world, I guess. Piper stepped close and hugged me hard. Thank you, she whispered. 15 seconds. You're welcome, Piper. I'll be back one day, I said, pulling away and grabbing Chloe's hand. Try to explain to Bjorn what's about to happen, would you? Explain what? Bjorn asked, frowning. 10 seconds. Later, guys, I said, taking a few more steps away from them while holding Chloe's hand, and then Bjorn received an arrow from behind, dropping to his knees before he took in 2 more in his back. 5 seconds. Piper screamed and tried to catch him before his body hit the snow, and then I did the only thing that I could do in the few fractured seconds I had left to help her. Just before the last second ticked away, I grabbed Piper with my free hand and pulled her hard away from Bjorn's body. And then we were gone. I did not see that coming. I did not think he was going to take Piper with them. Crap. That was a really long chapter, probably the longest one so far. And this next chapter is pretty long too. Unfortunately, I do have to get to work because I got such a late start today, but I wanted to get us at least one chapter in. We're at page 146 right now, and the whole thing is 221. So we're real close, and tomorrow is Saturday, so we'll probably get through like a good chunk of this tomorrow and maybe finish it Sunday or Monday. Freaking wild. Did not see that coming. If you had asked me what I thought was going to happen, I did not think that Bjorn was going to die. I kind of like him. And wow. I'll see you all later for slime making. Restock is on Sunday. Craziness. Wild. I will have videos and photos. Will yesterday be posted on? Yes, I will be posting it shortly. I just downloaded it right before I got on this, so I'll post them both shortly. And I'll see you all later for slime. Bye, y'all.